Hi, and welcome to Reed's audio reading. I'm Reed, and I hope you enjoy my channel. Today, I'll be reading the module Bloodstone Pass, First Edition, specifically Chapter 2. This module was written by Douglas Niles and Michael Dobson. Chapter 2, The Road to Bloodstone. The journey from the town of Valls, the beginning of the Bloodstone Pass, is shown on Map 2, The Road to Bloodstone. The Bloodstone Pass region is shown on Map 3, Valley of Bloodstone. These maps are not designed to be shown to the players. In this chapter, the characters travel from Valls to Bloodstone, going from the dusty plains of the Duchy of Arcata to the foothills of the Galena Mountains, then up the narrow trail that leads into the Valley of Bloodstone. Along that route, the characters may have several special encounters. You may use some, all, or none of the encounters in this chapter, depending on how much game time you wish to spend here. You must place each encounter you use on either Map 2 or Map 3. Sometimes information in the encounter descriptions tells you what sort of area in which the encounter should be placed. Other times the decision is up to you. Some encounters need to take place in specific order, others can be rearranged as you wish. If the characters recruited soldiers in the Valls, most of these encounters will not occur, since monsters with even a little intelligence will not attack such a large party. Although it is possible for characters to recruit soldiers either in Valls or on the road to Bloodstone, they don't have to do so. They can achieve their goals with the resources already available in the pass. If the characters do recruit soldiers, however, their army will be much stronger and they should have an easier time of it. The journey takes 2 weeks on foot and 1 week on horseback. The distance that a party can travel on foot each day is marked on the maps. A party on horseback can move twice that distance each day. Each night, the party must take camp and set a watch. There are no random encounters, but for the sake of atmosphere, you can add some strange sounds and unexplained lights. You can roll the dice once each night to keep the party on its toes. Encounters in the foothills and the valley take place whenever and wherever the dungeon master decides, within the limits of the encounter description, of course. Encounters along the road in the Duchy of Arcata take place randomly according to the following table. Encounter Table 1, the Duchy of Arcata. Frequency of encounters 1 per 6 hours. Chance of encounters 1 in 4. Encounter 1, Refugees. Large parties of refugees, bedraggled peasants carrying their remaining worldly possessions in small wagons and moving south. They ignore the party unless challenged. They do not know any details of the situation to the north, except that the invaders are occupying the northern province in force. They will not fight, even in self defense, and will not accompany the party into the mountains, fearing the bandits there almost as much as the enemy to the north. They have no money. Encounter 2, Bandits. This looks like just another band of refugees, but as soon as the characters get close enough, the bandits surround them and demand a ransom before allowing them to pass. There are 100 bandits, all first level fighters, wearing leather armor and carrying short swords. They have a morale of 10. The bandits allow the party to pass unharmed if the characters pay a ransom of 100 gold pieces per person. If the party chooses to fight, treat the bandits as a unit of regular troops in open formation using battle system rules. Whenever the bandits fail a morale check, they rout and do not return. Each slain bandit is carrying 5 gold pieces, 50 gold pieces per killed figure. The bandits will not threaten the party if the pieces are traveling with soldiers. Encounter 3, Soldiers. The characters encounter a unit of 120 first level fighters wearing chainmail and armed with long swords and short bows. Refugees from north. Make an encounter reaction check for the soldiers using the table in the Dungeon Master Guide, page 63, using the charisma of whichever character first talks with the soldiers. If the adjusted dice score is less than 26, the soldiers attack in open formation using battle system rules, hoping to slay the party and take their weapons, money, and equipment. They attack whether or not the party is accompanied by a unit of fighters. Treat them as a regular unit in open formation with a morale of 12. If they rout, they flee, never to return. Each slain soldier is carrying 10 gold pieces, 100 gold pieces per killed figure. If the adjusted dice score is greater than 75, the soldiers are friendly. If the characters have not already recruited a unit of soldiers, will, if asked, enter the service of the party for the duration of the adventure for a fee of 3,500 gold pieces in advance. On any other result, the soldiers are neutral, possibly with friendly or unfriendly overtones, and neither attack nor consent to ally. Foothills of the Gaha Mountains. The road through the foothills passes through a variety of terrain as the characters climb into the Galena Mountains. Sometimes the area is forested, sometimes rocky, with steep cliffs on each side. Use these encounters where you wish, placing each encounter in the most advantageous terrain type. Encounter 4. Hill giants are encountered when the party is in a narrow gorge going up in the mountainside. The giants are above the gorge with an unlimited supply of boulders, and start the attack by throwing boulders down at the party. They attack even if the party is accompanied by a unit of soldiers. If 5 or more of the giants are killed, the rest flee. Encounter 5. Hell Dwarves. A party of 40 hill dwarves in a loose marching order are coming down the road, wary and disciplined. As soon as they see the PCs, they stop and draw up a battle line. It is immediately obvious that a number of them are hurt, mostly burned. Many of them wear bandages, some are using their swords to lean on. Toward the back are 5 litters bearing the worst of the dwarven wounded. Litters are carried by 2 dwarves each. These hill dwarves are a hunting party from the dwarven village near Bloodstone, encountered later in this adventure. They have been chewed up by a battle with red dragons. They accidentally wandered into their dragon's lair. Several of them are badly burned. If the party uses an healing magic or otherwise befriends the dwarves, give the party a plus 30% bonus to their encounter reaction roll if they approach the dwarves for help later. If the party decides to fight the red dragons, the dwarves show them the cave where the dragons live. Encounter 6. The cave is located about half a mile off the road. The dwarves who have suffered enough in their battle with the red dragons, thank you, are glad if the party wishes to fight the dragons but are unwilling to help. They are skeptical about the party's ability to handle the dragons and make disparaging remarks about sheer suicide and crazy humans. If the party succeeds in killing the dragons, though, the dwarves are very impressed indeed. However, the dwarves will not join the party's quest at this time. Encounter 6. Red Dragons. This is a family of red dragons living in their lair. Map 2A. The area in front of their lair forms a clearing in the woods. A steep cliff face has one large opening. The charred remains of 2 dwarves lie in the clearing. There is no way for characters to sneak into the cave. The father is a huge ancient red dragon, the mother is an average old dragon, and the youngster is a small sub-adult dragon. All 3 dragons are awake and all can speak the common tongue. The dragons have a treasure hoard consisting of 10,000 copper pieces, 10,000 gold pieces, gems and jewelry worth 20,000 gold pieces, and the following magic items: potions of extra healing, polymorph self, and undead control, a scroll of protection from magic, a ring of human influence, a spellbook containing all the listed spells, and gem of seeing. Remember, the special abilities of a red dragon's automatic detection hidden or invisible creatures within 1 per age level, the adult's ability is to cause awe or fear in low level creatures, resistance to air and fire based attacks, but extra vulnerability to earth and water based attacks. And the ferocity bonus +2 to hit, +1/+3 claw/bite damage if either of a mated pair or child are attacked. If the party has hired soldiers, the soldiers will not participate in any attack against red dragons. We signed up to fight an army, not get killed by winged serpents, one grizzled sergeant says. If any single character kills either of the adult dragons single handedly, the soldiers are so impressed that the character gives the soldiers an additional +1 bonus to morale when he is commanding them. The 3 dragons are awake and alert after their engagement with the dwarves, so they cannot be surprised by a character's approach. As soon as the movement of the characters is detected, and before any parley or conflict can take place, the dragons cast their defensive spells. The oldest dragon casts protection from good and minor globe of invulnerability on himself. His wife casts shield on her child. The dragon's wife has a detect good spell in operation. Whenever the oldest dragon becomes aware of the party's approach, he says, Why do you bother us, little creatures? Have you no better way to spend your time? We have no desire to do you harm. If the characters parley with the dragons, the oldest dragon is pleasant and anxious as his evil natures will allow. His goal is to lure the party out into the open within range of his breath weapon. His wife and child are lurking in the darkness just behind him. If the party, or even most of it, comes within range, all three dragon breathe fire simultaneously. Go to the battle description below. If the party parleys from a safe distance, the dragon continues to be pleasant. It offers a bribe of a chest of gold and jewelry if the characters will simply leave his family alone. I could destroy you all easily, he says, for my power is immense. But I have no desire to cause pain or suffering. All I want is to be left in peace. As proof of his intentions, he pushes a large chest overflowing with gold out into the clearing in front of the cave. A gift to you if you will only leave us in peace, the dragon says. The chest is actually filled with 10,000 copper pieces under a fool's gold spell. The chest requires a combined strength of 37 to carry. If the characters come out to pick it up, the dragons attack. The characters can try to play on the innate weakness of dragons, cowardice, subject to flattery, greed, and avarice through conversation. Use the encounter reaction table to see if the dragon falls for any ploy by the characters. The dragon's breath fires simultaneously at as many of the characters as are in range in the first round of combat. They use their remaining breath weapon attacks whenever more than half of the party is within range and area of effect of the breath weapons of at least two of the three dragons. In the second round of the combat, the oldest dragon casts a phantasmal force spell to duplicate the appearance of a conjure fire elemental spell. The fire elemental appears to grow out of the remains of the eerily breath weapon attack. The dragon's wife casts magic missile at any magic user in range. The child casts confusion. If the characters try to close with the dragons use their breath weapons as pass-through fire against the advancing characters. Once the characters close, the dragons use their claw and bite attack routine. If the characters do not close, the dragons continue spell use. The oldest dragon uses this to dispel magic against any enemy magic spells or devices, then casts confusion and darkness, 15 radius to disorient the attackers. The wife casts lightning bolt and hold person. The child casts magic missile followed by charm person. The dragons, once enraged, fight to the death. If the party subdues the dragons, Valls is the nearest town where a buyer might be available. Garland and Garvin argue the characters to continue on to Bloodstone. If the characters decide to keep the subdued dragons as allies, they may do so. However, intelligence spell using dragons are unlikely to remain subdued for long without the use of a charm monster spell. If the dragons are successfully charmed or otherwise bound to the service of the characters, they will fight on the side of Bloodstone. Remember, however, that the aura of dragons has an effect on all low level or low hit die creatures in the range, even the forces fighting on the same side as the dragons. Encounter 7 Halfling Patrol. The path into the hills is narrow, lined on both sides with tall trees. A patrol of 150 halfling archers from the Halfling Shire and Bloodstone Pass are up in the trees, alerted by the sounds of the party moving up the trail. The halflings believe that the party is attached to the bandit army. They hope to capture and kill them in such a way that it appears to be accidental. They attack whether or not the characters are occupied by soldiers. They have a number of large nets with them in the trees. They are effectively invisible in the trees and surprised on a roll of 1 to 5 on 1d6. Run this engagement using battle system rules. When the party passes under the trees, the halflings drop the nets. 1 to 4 nets automatically hit each of the travelers. Each character and each soldier figure, if appropriate, must make a saving throw versus paralyzation for each net that lands, or the arms and legs of the victim are tangled in the falling net. Characters whose arms are tangled cannot cut themselves free, use weapons, or use spells with either a somatic or material component. Characters whose arms are free can cut themselves out of the net in 2 melee rounds, but cannot use any spell with a somatic component until then. The halflings then leap down from the trees and surround the netted party. Don't move, or you'll be smiling out of a second mouth in your neck, the leader says. Tell me who you are and what you're doing here, and it had better be good. The halfling leader, whose name is Fredgast, gives the party a minute to start explaining. If the party members attack, the halflings start to fight back. But just then, Garland and Garvin speak up. Fredgrest, it's me, Garland. And Garvin, it's okay. These are our friends. Come to help free us from the awful bandits. And they're great heroes too. I saw them beat a dragon and other monsters. Played Fredgrest. Don't kill them. They're really on our side. Fredgrest believes Garland and Garvin and orders his halflings to stop fighting. However, he doesn't release the party until he has gotten the story straight from them, frankly, skeptical that the party can defeat the enemy considering how easily his halflings trap them. If the characters ask Fredegast and his halflings to assist them in their mission, Fredegast explains, I'm deeply sympathetic, but I know these villains all too well. They will seek a terrible revenge, and they are powerful. If you should not win, they will destroy even the poor lives we live now. We fight back, but subtle by arranging accidents for occasional wandering parties. Even that may one day cause our village more pain than good, but we must do something. Show us that you can win this war, and then we will assist you openly. But learn to watch your back better. If the party manage to foil the traps, detect the halflings, or escape the nets, Fredegast is much more impressed with them. He is still unwilling to commit his halflings to the party's service, but promises to send forces when the final victory is nigh. The halflings will see the party safely into the pass itself, but will not go any further. The Bloodstone Pass. After much hard traveling, you finally climb the final, narrow, twisting path that leads into the Bloodstone Pass, the only passable route through the forbidding Galena Mountains. The path winds its way up, and then one cold, crisp morning, you find yourself standing on a ridge looking over the valley. The Bloodstone Pass is a narrow valley through the mountains. From this vantage, the valley is verdant and peaceful. A blue lake glistens in the distance, and a small town can be seen on its shore. This is your final destination, the village of Bloodstone. Garland and Garvin have explained to you that the entire valley is technically part of the barony of Bloodstone, although the baron has little power over his domains. Once, small towns dotted the landscape, and the winding road through the valley was filled with caravans. Now the town of Bloodstone is only a shadow of its former glory. There are 3 encounters in the valley before the characters reach the town of Bloodstone. Use map 3 for all encounters in this section. Encounter 8, Fairy Dragons. This encounter takes place the first night the characters camp in the Bloodstone Pass Valley. It takes place whether or not the party is accompanied by soldiers. Besides the road at the point of the party makes camp is a grove of trees. Tempting, luscious, fresh fruit hangs from the tree branches. All is pleasant and peaceful. The grove is actually the home of 3 fairy dragons and 20 pixies. Garland and Garvin do not know about it, since the fairy dragons did not bother them on their trek out of the valley. However, seeing a much larger party coming into the valley, the dragons and pixies have decided to make some fun. None of the actions of either the pixies or the fairy dragons is ever intended to cause any permanent harm to the party. Rather, they hope to create confusion and chaos in a grand orgy of practical joking. If the party members kill any of the dragons or pixies, however, the inhabitants of the grove will use their powers to repel the intruders at all costs. The 3 fairy dragons form a family. The male is an ancient purple fairy dragon named Clematis. The female is an old blue-green fairy dragon named Inanthrian. The child is a young adult male yellow fairy dragon named Curcumin. The 20 pixies form a small tribe. They look up to the fairy dragons as their leaders, since the dragons think up the best practical jokes of anyone. The campsite and grove are shown on map 3A. The fairy dragons and pixies want to create as much panic, confusion, and chaos as they can, and finally to lure as many people as possible to the center of the grove, where a hallucinatory terrain spell covers a huge mud pit created by the use of a dig spell, and a transmute rock to mud spell. Once most or all of the party is waist deep in the mud, the fairy dragons and pixies appear at the rim of the pit and laugh, and laugh, and laugh in a high pitched, squeaky voice. The fairy dragons and pixies first sneak up on the campsite once everyone is settled in for the night and most of the characters are asleep. They get surprise and automatic initiative in the first melee round unless the party has specifically placed detect spells or similar magic to detect their coming. If the party has a campfire going, Inathrian casts Create water above the fire. A huge splash of water puts out the fire and soaks anyone within 5 feet. Kurkumin sends dancing lights that resemble 4 will-o-wisps into the camp and then sends them towards the mud pit. Clematis casts darkness at the remaining light sources. If the party is accompanied by soldiers, the pixies fire sleep arrows at them, initially affecting 2 figures, being 20 soldiers. Throughout this attack, the characters hear the faint sounds of high pitched laughter all around them. They cannot tell from which direction the sounds are coming. Each character who's asleep when the fairy dragons attack must make a saving throw versus paralyzation each melee round to wake up. Since characters do not normally sleep in armor, it takes 3 to 8 rounds for them to dress for battle. If they choose not to put on their armor, they suffer appropriate penalties to AC. On the second round, the pixies continue to fight at soldiers. If the party is not accompanied by soldiers, the invisible pixies sneak into the camp to steal items, especially magic items, spell books, weapons, and other useful items. To increase confusion, the pixies use their create illusion powers to create 20 illusory dryads of incredible calmlessness. The illusory dryads have both audial and visual presence and last until dispelled. They do not have the Dryad charm ability, but their calmness of 21 has a powerful charm like effect on all males in the party who do not successfully disbelieve the illusion. Males who fall under the calmness effect cannot attack the Dryads or do anything except follow the lovely creatures. The illusory dryads then head into the grove towards the mud pit. They will walk over the hallucinatory terrain covering the pit, but the characters will fall right through. The dryads disappear when the hallucinatory terrain spell is broken. In the same round, Clematis casts Otto's Irresistible Dance at any spellcaster in the party. Inathrian casts Entangle at one or more fighters. Kurkumin casts Confusion at the party. Both Clematis and Kurkumin cast their Dispel magic spells against any magic the party tries to use. Inathrian casts Hallucinatory Forest onto the road so the characters no longer know which way to go. Note that there is no saving throw versus the hallucinatory forest effect, even if it is disbelieved characters who are not druids or woodland creatures cannot recognize the forest as an illusion. 2 of the pixies can cast Otto's Irresistible Dance, and do so as soon as they have dealt with the soldiers and conjured the illusory dryads. Each pixie tries to touch at least one of the characters causing confusion. Any character who tries to use deadly force against one of the pixies or dragons becomes the target of 1 to 20 pixie memory loss arrows, and must make a saving throw versus magic for each arrow that hits, or lose all memory. The pixies have the ability to polymorph themselves at will and may suddenly appear as giants, pegasi, myconoids, small dinosaurs, divas, nymphs, or anything else that is startling and inappropriate. They are likely to change form every 2 rounds. Pixies also have the ability to cast Dispel Magic once each per day, and use that against any party attempts to use magic. The fairy dragons will use Suggestion, Ventriloquism, Charm Person, Forget, and other mental spells to disorient the party as much as possible, and so lure them into the final mud drop. This encounter should be played for fun. Use the powers of the dragons and pixies to keep the characters from killing anyone, and try to capture, confuse, trap, and muddy the entire party. Clematis will use his limited wish to cure anyone who gets badly hurt or whose memory is destroyed. The characters may be either good sports or bad sports about this encounter. If they are bad sports, the dragons sulk at the ruin of the joke, help the characters out of the mud, and send them on their way. The pixies boo anyone who is a bad sport. If the characters try to take revenge on the Jokers or use deadly magic, the dragons and pixies use their full powers to neutralize the attack. They try to cause confusion and memory loss in all the party, steal all their possessions, and then abandon them to their fate. If this should happen, it is up to the DM how or whether the party even regains its memory and powers, or gets a chance to complete the mission. If the characters are neither good nor bad sports and make no attempt to befriend or talk with the dragons and pixies, the dragons and pixies repair any damage caused by the joke and turn the characters loose to continue their journey. If the characters are very good sports and laugh along with the dragons and pixies, the inhabitants of the grove befriend them. The pixies arrange a party with wonderful food and drink, and the celebration lasts the rest of the night. If a chaotic good member of the party befriends Kurkumin, the youngest dragon, and shows compatibility, Kurkumin may decide to accompany the character at the discretion of the DM. If this happens, Kurkumin will not be a familiar, but rather a henchman. He does not automatically do what his companion tell him to do. In the matter of all fairy dragons, he will never use his powers to cause deliberate harm. In order to get Kurkumin to do something, the characters must first persuade the dragon that the outcome will be funny. If two or more chaotic good characters vie for Kurkumin's attention, the character with the highest charisma wins. The dragons and pixies will not help the characters directly. However, if the characters can convince the dragons and pixies that there is an opportunity for practical joking, the pixies may come to help again at the DM's sole discretion. Don't give the party either Kunkurumen or the help of the dragons and pixies unless the party is clever enough to create a good practical joke that would appeal to the inhabitants of the grove. The characters can also choose to come back to the grove to ask for help later, if they think of a good joke. Encounter 9, Centaur Youth. As the party continues along the road to Bloodstone, they hear a faint cry of help. If they follow the cry, they come upon a young male centaur with a broken leg, trapped beneath a fallen tree. He is pinned firmly. The centaur has been lying there for 2 days and is faint with hunger. He had almost given up hope of rescue. The leg is badly broken. It requires a heal spell or more powerful magic to repair. If such magic is used, the centaur is instantly cured. Alternatively, the party can and bandage their leg and carry the centaur back to his village. If the party aids the centaur, the inhabitants of the centaur village are very pleased, even though they are not, as a rule, fond of humans. If the characters ask for assistance, give them a plus 30% bonus to their encounter reaction score. Encounter 10, Drunken Bullies. As the party gets closer to the village of Bloodstone, they pass outlying farms. One farmhouse is close to the road. As the party approaches, they hear the sound of shattering glass and a female scream coming from the house. The situation is this: a group of 10 orcs from the bandit army got drunk and came down into the valley to pillage and torment whatever they could find. They came upon this farmhouse, which is inhabited by an old farmer and his 2 young daughters. They have smashed up the furniture, beaten the old man, who is unconscious and bleeding, but not dead, and are about to assault the 2 young daughters, hence the screaming. The orcs are reasonably alert, even though drunk, and detect the party's approach unless they are using special methods to avoid detection. As soon as they see the threat, they grab the girls and hold them as hostages. It takes only one melee round for the orcs to kill the girls, so the party must be very clever. If the party parlays, the orcs insist on being paid 500 gold pieces apiece to leave. They will take the girls with them and turn them loose later. But if you follow us, growls the orc leader. Of course, the orcs have no intention of releasing the girls alive, at any rate. The party must defeat the orcs without allowing the girls to die. If the party defeats the orcs and no harm comes to the girls, they receive a plus 10% bonus to all encounter reaction rolls in the village of Bloodstone. If the girls die and the party uses clerical magic to raise them, the party receives no bonus. If the girls die and are not raised, the party receives a minus 30% penalty to all encounter reactions rolls in the village. If the orcs are captured, they will not willingly reveal any information. If charmed or otherwise persuaded to talk, they know the location of the army camp but little about the army's plans. Along the final miles of the road to Bloodstone, no encounters take place. The farms are working in the fields, filled with grain ready for harvest. Harvest time is nigh, and soon the collectors of tribute will come to rob the peasants of their work. Thank you for listening to this audio reading of Bloodstone Pass, First Edition, Chapter 2. I hope you enjoyed and have a great day. Best regards, Reed.